Hello to everybody joining me. I'm Erin, and welcome to the Virtual Education Intervention Podcast. The name should give it away, but I'm here to educate, encourage, and entertain families and teachers who live and work with neurodivergent family members, friends, and students. And yep, you guessed it, my primary location for education is virtual. Sometimes we all just need a little more community, and we benefit from having people in our lives who understand how we live, how we work, and what our minds are consumed with daily. We just need support and encouragement within that space. If you're here, welcome to our community. Hey friends, welcome back to the Virtual Education Intervention Podcast, your go-to for all things virtual support for neurodivergent students. If you've been following along, then you know we've been doing a deep dive in the executive function jungle, swinging through the trees of organization, working memory, metacognition, and most recently, emotional regulation. Today's episode was scheduled to cover impulse control like I advertised on our last podcast, but we're actually going to practice our flexibility and take a little detour today. I've decided to leave behind the proverbial PowerPoint slides and brain science for something maybe a little more fun or spicy and perhaps more practical for some of us. Before we dive in, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Erin Luchterhand Coaching. That's where I post more content, bonus tips, resources, and services. So come hang out with us there. You can also email us or check out our website. The info will be in the podcast description. So the reason we're making this switch today is because I recently saw a post on social media asking for everyone's, quote, most unhinged advice. You know, those things that you do to survive the chaos of daily life that sound absolutely ridiculous until they work. This wasn't asking for the, I use a checklist or I have a color-coded chart type of suggestions for neurodivergent students. But more specifically, it was asking for the most ridiculous or quote unquote unhinged things you've done as a parent or an educator to support your ADHD or neurodivergent child. Maybe you've seen these posts floating around recently, but it was asking for the things that you learn work for your own kiddo or maybe yourself when you're in the thick of it with them. I honestly thought that some of these ideas were brilliant. Some of them were hysterical, but at the very least, they were all relatable. So our executive function deep dive is super important and super valuable, and we're going to get back to it. But first, I think we need a little relatability, a little humor, a little more understanding that, sometimes the best strategies are the ones that work for your kid. This episode is the one that's going to make these coaches cry, right? So as an executive function coach, I'm looking at what the science says about how the brain works and the strategies we can use to support our students. But guess what? This is the kind of podcast that say, no, I don't want your productivity system. Give me a glitter pen, a Post-it wall, and a playlist that says songs for the doing things that I hate, right? It's the kind of random things that you're not going to find in a textbook. But here's the thing. Sometimes that weird stuff, that's the stuff that actually works for neurodivergent brains. So today I'm going to refer to some of these posts and I'm going to share some of the best, the most chaotic suggestions on them, and I'm going to react in live time. Maybe we'll laugh, maybe we'll say, oh my goodness. If I have a few that come to mind from my own parenting or childhood experience, I'll throw them in there as well. If we find some that say, oh, here's why that works, we'll add that in too. But ultimately, we're just going to kind of do a fun react podcast to some of these posts. I'm going to read these ideas, and I hope that you find some value in it, maybe a few ideas that you can try yourself. So this post says, tell me the most random, weird, or unhinged thing you've done to help your neurodivergent kid cooperate. No sticker chart, no timers. I'm talking full on creativity ADHD style. So one of the commenters said, I tow the kids around on a blanket before bed. I call it the night train, and it stops at toothbrush station, toilet station, and bedtime station. All aboard. I actually really love this because it creates a routine. Here's that EF side coming in. It creates a routine for kids, which is super great. And also sometimes neurodivergent kids, specifically those with ADHD, often benefit from having a high level of energy used up right before bed. So you typically think, oh, I'm going to kind of quiet everything down and go to bed. Or sometimes our ADHD kiddos benefit from like a really big, like explosive burst of energy before bed. And then that actually helps to calm them down. It's, kind of similar to an adult with ADHD drinking coffee, and it has the opposite effect. It relaxes them and it doesn't energize them. So I think that's a really fun one. She ties in a typical routine into something super fun that's engaging kids. This one says, and it's kind of must be a really specific scenario, I'll let you go in the dog's crate for 5 minutes if you try one bite of turkey. Yes, you can eat it from a plate on the floor like the dog. Yes, I'll also let you fetch the Frisbee afterwards. Nothing works as good as a little bit of bribery for something that's interesting. I let him zoom around the house on rollerblades while practicing his vocabulary words, and he gets a 100 on every single test. Yes, that motion, that multi-sensory, multi-everything learning. I love it, and he gets that energy out, and he thinks he's having a blast, I bet. This person said, my kindergarten grandson hated practicing reading and writing words for homework, so he would do it in the bathtub with soap, finger paint, and on the shower walls. It still counts to me, even if it's not on pencil and paper. I love that. Multisensory. Not every kid does well writing on paper 100 times. Move and groove, my friends. That's awesome. And by the way, I'm just picking random ones to pull up and read. I haven't previewed all of these, so we're going to kind of get what we get, but I love these so far. This person says, we do John Cena into bed. I don't know why we call it that. My husband and son came up with it, but it just entails my 6-year-old running from one end of the house into his bedroom and diving into the bed while he screams John Cena. Whatever works, right? Exactly, whatever works. I love that. Dry erase markers on the freezer because he hates sitting at a desk and writing. Setting up camp under any bed or table so he can have calm space. Not forcing him to cut his hair or wear clothes the right way because he's so much happier when he has body autonomy. Largely just embracing the chaos because there's a reason for most of it and I don't care what the outsiders think. I bet you're a homeschool mom. I love that. Here it is. Our traditional system of education has worked for a lot of people, but it doesn't work for everybody. And, we can't be forcing neurodivergent kids or, kids who just are more active or learn differently, whether they're neurodivergent or not. Like, it's hard to force all kids into one system of learning or one system of education, and being able to move and draw on the freezer with a dry erase marker. That's genius. I'm going to try that. Never thought about that. It's so brilliant. He's working on the same skill. I think so often our kids get graded or judged on their ability to sit still at a desk or, to write something down when the assignment was actually memory. Like, why are we grading and judging our kids on one skill when the actual assignment was another one? I heard from a parent today whose child has some memory work. And one of the assignments is to, memorize this piece of information and then write it down later in the week. And that might be a great way to test for some kids' understanding if writing is not a challenge. But when writing's a challenge, you can't grade memory work based on their ability to write it down. Those are two different skills. And so why not grade, memory work based on verbalizing something? So we need to be able to accommodate our kids. And I absolutely love that last post. Dry eraser on the freezer, or dry erase markers on the freezer, setting up camp wherever they're going to work. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. This person says, to get my kid to brush his teeth, he brushes mine while I brush his, and it's hilarious. I love that. That's so fun. And sometimes as parents, we have to kind of get down and dirty into the nitty gritty with our kids. That's so fun. Good job, Mom. For every pair of socks he matches, he gets 1 minute of iPad time. Folding shirts earns 2 minutes. And I also got him to eat carrots the same way. Now he eats them all the time. Nice job. I let my 9-year-old do 3 laps of the house before bed, and he said he just needs to run. Again, get the energy out. I love it. Let's see. This person said she lets her child swear. It was mid-meltdown in public, and I was trying to stop it. So I offered her to say a swear word. The shock snapped her out of it. She said bugger and moved on pretty quickly. Sometimes that shock just snaps you out of it. I was it just makes me laugh. I was working with my daughter tonight. She had a splinter in her finger, and she just was so anxious and nervous and terrified. And the last time she had a splinter, it was a really bad one, and it hurt to get it out. So she was kind of recalling that memory, and she was exhausted because it's been a long day right before bed, and just struggling with the idea of needing to get this splinter out, and she was just kind of mid meltdown, and so clapping my hands really loud in her face, not to scare her, not to punish her or anything, but I need her to just kind of snap out of it. And once she did, she was able to take the tweezers and pull it out herself, and she did great, and she could have that kind of like recovery focus type of deal. But I love this one. My kids aren't quite old enough to swear, and I don't know if they even would know what one of those words are. Maybe as they get a little older, I'll have to try this one or adapt it. But something like that to snap you out of it. And also express frustration. That's hysterical. Okay, I love that one. I created a game to learn spelling words. Every week I'd write the words on a flashcard and then toss them in the air like 52 pickup. He'd run around, pick one up, and hand it to me. That would be the next word. He thought it was hilarious, got some energy out, and forgot he was studying. Awesome. Love that creativity. This one, this is definitely a little unhinged. I love it. I have a poo-poo dance called Let the Poo-Poo Come Down. It involves me dancing in different styles past the open toilet door. Hasn't failed yet. It has a dance hall type of beat. That is next level parenting. When you have to do stuff to get that poo-poo to come down. I love it. And that is so good. All right, let's see. This person said, I would tell my daughter when she's frustrated to go to the bathroom and push on the counter like she was trying to move it. Interesting. I bet that is really good emotional regulation. So the person commented underneath and said, great heavy work. This regulates. OT taught me to push a wall. Interesting. I'm going to have to try one like that. Push on a wall, push a counter that's stable. That heavy work, pushing can help regulate your nervous system and regulate those emotions. That's I wouldn't say that's unhinged, but that is quite smart. I like that a lot. All right, we're going to switch to another post. This one is on Instagram. Let's see, this one, so not quite unhinged, but a kind, thoughtful parent being really intentional. When they tell me their messy room is stressing them out, I clean it for them because I know how good it feels to have a fresh, clean space when life feels too heavy. So sometimes with neurodiversity and ADHD specifically, you end up kind of having this like weird dichotomy. So on one hand, the clutter and the mess is really overwhelming and overstimulating, and on the other hand, it's also overwhelming to start to pick it up. Once it's clean, it's amazing, but we like to leave little piles everywhere, and eventually it gets cluttered, and then that's stressful, but it's overwhelming to pick it up. So it's this kind of weird dichotomy of that. So this is so thoughtful of this parent to say, you know what, like, I get it. This is overwhelming. Let me help you. So maybe not unhinged, but very thoughtful and intentional. Oh, okay, I like some of these. Toothbrushes and paste are in my car so they can brush their teeth on the way to school. When I need them to follow me closely, I say, hello, ducks, and then they quack and flap their arms and walk behind me for as long as I quack at them. It works every time. You're welcome. That might be a really great one for a classroom or a large family. I love it. Okay, I have seen this next one several times, and I've never tried it. To be fair, we homeschool, and also to be fair, sometimes my kids don't want to put on their pajamas, so they head to bed in the clothes they were wearing from the day. But it's because they go to bed that way, not because they want to wake up that way. So this one says, when my daughter was 4 to 7 years old, her sensory issues were so high. Shower in the evening, clothes on for the next day. No clothing problems during school mornings. So essentially, and I've seen this one several times on these posts, instead of putting pajamas on before bed, they get their children dressed in the clothes for the next day. That way, like before school is way smoother. You're not trying to figure out what to wear. You're not dealing with sensory issues on like, oh, this doesn't fit right or whatever. You could just sleep in your clothes for the next day. Okay. Like if you are comfortable doing that, if your kids are comfortable, I don't know that I would want to sleep in blue jeans myself, but oftentimes kids wear stretchy pants or cute little dresses and comfortable clothes. So, or whatever they're comfortable in, right? And so, I don't know. I think that's a really cool idea. If your kids are comfortable sleeping like that, might be worth a try. All right, let's see. Dinner. I've also seen this one a couple of times. This one's fascinating to me. Dinner is right after school. It's when the kids are the hungriest and most willing to eat, and I still have the energy to prepare it. By 5 or 6, forget it. They are in charge of a bedtime snack. So I've seen this one several times where they feed their kids the dinner meal right after school, and then they are able to have a snack before bed. So instead of having a snack when they're like the hungriest and dinner later when they've already snacked and then probably not as hungry, you flip-flop it. That would be one I'd be willing to try. We homeschool, so there is a little bit of flexibility there. But that is true. My kids do get kind of snacky around that, 3:30 time, 4 o'clock time, and then they snack and then they don't want to eat dinner. Maybe I'll have to try that. I am getting some really great ideas from these posts. That's why I wanted to share them with you. I love these. Somebody said asking them to be the leader about what we have to do before we leave the house. I really do love this one because so often our students with neurodiversity are told, oh, stop talking, stop moving, stop doing this, stop doing that. And it can eventually over time be really discouraging. And so to have somebody ask them to be a leader, that can be a really big, confidence and self-esteem booster. I think that's great. And as the parent, if you're doing it before the house, you can really guide it to something within their strengths and target that even more. Awesome. So this next one, I love this one. This one can be deep tissue pressure, which is really great for regulating. Turn my kids into pizzas before bed. They're rolled, kneaded, and have me tickle the toppings on them. I love that. That's great. Let's see, somebody said, lots of singing. My husband and I just start singing the steps of things that need to get done, and they sort of just follow along, and we make it up the stairs. It's weird, and I don't know how it started, but the kids like it. I love that. And this last one we're going to read today says that they have a trampoline in the middle of their living room, and it helps so much with regulation. That makes total sense to me. When we did occupational therapy for my daughter, there was a big aspect of it where we discussed gross motor movement and the importance of that practice and that kind of feeling more comfortable in your skin and that regulation. And that regulation needs to happen with emotional regulation and nervous system regulation, and that all ties together. So having a trampoline can be awesome. So like my occupational therapist recommended climbable tools, right? Like put like a rock wall in your basement or a big swing in your basement. If you have the space and you have the ability to, attach things to your wall or your ceiling. If not, something like a trampoline is great. Think about when you go for a power walk, how much better you feel afterwards. You've moved your body, you've released tension or, whatever it is that you're feeling inside. Oftentimes we're much more regulated, and, as adults without neurodiversity, or as, even young people without neurodiversity, I think we take for granted quite a bit the fact that we are able to self-regulate a lot more, and being able to, identify the regulation component in our students and our children with neurodiversity is super important. I loved these unhinged, so to speak, hacks. I think they're brilliant. And the point here isn't that your child needs to be more normal, whatever that means. It's that your brain works, or your child's brain works in its own incredible way. And sometimes the key to executive function or other support isn't a fancy planner. It's duct tape and glitter pens, turning your life into a musical, right? The real executive function tip, the real support help your child tip. It's whatever works is what works. And if something from today made you laugh like it did me, nod, or say, wait, I thought I was the only one that did that, then I would love if you shared this episode with a fellow neurospicy human in your life, or parents, teachers looking to support individuals with ADHD or autism or dyslexia or learning disabilities. And hey, if you have your own beautifully unhinged hack, then tag me on Instagram or Facebook, or drop it in the comment section of this podcast or this podcast post. And I might even read it on the next episode, but somehow let me know, send me an email. We would love to share more of these ideas and suggestions with our community. So that's it for this week. It's a short little podcast, but hopefully a fun one. Next time we'll get back into the deep dives, but remember that your child's brain is not broken. It's just built differently, and that is something to celebrate. Now, next time, I promise we really will explore impulse control. Clearly, I was lacking it a little bit with this podcast topic, but we're going to take a look at impulse control, what it really looks like for neurodivergent learners, and how to support it without shame or punishment. Remember, Erin Luchter Hand Coaching is a mission and vision-driven small business designed to support you. As a team, we provide virtual intervention and education to break down barriers, create access to research-based tools that empower neurodivergent individuals. By addressing challenges specific to neurodiversity, our sessions foster growth, resilience, and self-confidence, equipping students and adults with the skills they need to thrive. We envision a world where neurodivergent individuals are empowered to embrace their unique strengths, knowing they are created on and for a purpose. Through innovative virtual interventions, we strive to build a future where every learner feels valued, capable, and confident, all while fostering a shared joy in the journey of growth, discovery, and success.
Artlist.io